Hey, it's Nathan, and welcome to another episode of, I should probably pick out a name for this, but, basically, I read you a poem, and then I talk about it. So, welcome back to that. Today, I have decided to pick one of my favorite poets and authors, really, of all time. That is, of course, Edgar Allan Poe. And I will be reading Annabel Lee. It is a pretty popular tale of his, and I'll hit you with some facts after I read it to you. So stay tuned for some cool facts about not only the poem, but Edgar Allan Poe himself. So, here we go. Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. With a love that winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was a reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsmen came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lay down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in the sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. That was Annabel Lee. So, I'm done with reading that. And now comes the discussion portion. Basically, I'm going to give you a synopsis of what I just read to you. I did mess up a few times. I do apologize for that. It happens. I get tongue-tied. So, again, this is going to be a synopsis, but I'm also going to be kind of explaining things factually wise to you. So, the theme of the poem, as it is in most of Poe's poems, is love. Love and death. And Annabel Lee actually is rumored to be referring to Poe's wife, Virginia. And here's a fun fact for you. Virginia was also not only his wife, but his first cousin. And they were married when she was 13 and Poe was 27, which sounds chaotic and disgusting nowadays, but was actually fairly common 100 and some odd years ago. So, breaking down to in the poem, he refers to her as an angel, stating that, quote, the angels not so happy in heaven when envying her and me, end quote. He mentions that their love is so powerful, and everlasting, that the angels would get jealous. So basically, this love that we have, it's so amazing that the angels in heaven are jealous of it. If that explains just the extent of how serious and how real this relationship was. He also mentions that every night he dreams of the stars and her, specifically her quote-unquote bright eyes. His love for her is so very strong that after she dies, he lies next to her tomb where she's buried by the sea. And Poe states that they will be together again. So that obviously hints to him believing in some sort of afterlife and that they'll be reunited and their love will prevail, basically. I really, really love this piece. I really do. I love this piece because it's so pure and so real. It's coming from an age where women at the time didn't really have a lot of respect and have a lot of, they didn't have the rights that women do nowadays. They didn't have the status, and they were the wife of a man. They were the mother of a child, and that was about it. They weren't seen as an individual truly. And so that means all the more with Poe writing this piece, because he basically worships her. He loves her to death, literally. And, that says something about Poe. And that says something specifically referring to the time, the year that he wrote this, where a lot of men saw women as objects, saw them as property, saw them as less than what they are now and what they truly are, which is so wrong. But Poe obviously doesn't feel that way. So I'm going to note that Annabel Lee, this piece that I read to you, is actually the last complete poem that Edgar Allan Poe composed, according to Wikipedia. And also according to Wikipedia, it follows his favorite topic, which I mentioned before, the death of a beautiful woman. That is a theme in some of his poems, most of his poems. And just as a getting to know you type session about Poe, like I said, he is one of my favorite authors, so I do know quite a bit about him. And I'll just say that he was an alcoholic, and he was absolutely tormented by the deaths of his foster mother and his wife. I don't remember the age that Edgar was adopted, but I know he was adopted at a very, very young age. He had a lot of problems with his father. His father he never really was close with his father, but he absolutely loved and was absolutely close with his foster mother. And she died, and then of course he got married to Virginia, and then she died of, I believe, his tuberculosis. And so it was too much for him to handle, which I understand. I mean, it's when you have two women that you clearly love so much, and then they both die so soon and so suddenly, it's hard. Some believe that Poe was even mentally ill, and he himself had a questionable death, and it's debated even nowadays, even till today, because of the fact that he was wearing someone else's clothes and he was delirious. Some say that he was drunk. Others say they didn't smell alcohol. He was not drunk. He was just being delirious. So the popular belief nowadays is that he had a brain tumor. But I might make a video explaining his death and explaining there's so many factors that go into his death and all of that. But I don't think that'll be for this episode. This episode really is just for admiring, really, this beautiful piece. He had a lot of, let's see, well, I don't know the word for it, but he mentions in the first stanza, first of all, he mentions her name 3 times, her full name, and not just Annabel, but Annabel Lee. He mentions it 3 times. He also says that she's a maiden. Let's see. I'm looking at it right now, kind of just. I was going good there. I had a good pace there for a while, but I'm kind of just re-looking at the piece right now. I have it in actually this really, really neat book called A Treasury of Classic Poetry, and I don't see an author's name. I got it at Barnes & Noble, but I don't see an author's name. But yeah, it's just literally a giant poetry book of around 700 pages worth of poems. And of course, Annabel Lee is one of those poems. Let's see. Also, one thing that stands out to me personally is that the idea of her being so loved and so cherished that the angels are jealous and they are the reason for her death. That stands out to me, because he says, right after he says how the angels are envy. I have so much trouble with that word. I don't know why. Envying her and me. He says, quote, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. So when you think like mythology, like specifically when I think of Greek mythology, there's gods and whatnot that control different aspects of the world. They control the weather. Some control weather, some control love, some control war, so on and so forth. And so he kind of hints at this idea, saying that the angels can control the weather, and that they sent this wind to make her sick, and the sickness inevitably caused her death. That stands out to me. That's not talked about a lot. I think it's worth mentioning, though, because that kind of, of course, if it is talking about Virginia, it refers that she didn't die of an earthly sickness. She died because of some mysterious force, something unexplainable, something that he was out of their control. He goes on to really profess his love to her, and how, he not, quote, and neither the angels in the heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee, stating that nothing on earth, in heaven, or in hell can rip us apart, which I think is absolutely beautiful and absolutely remarkable. Again, not only for the time period, but just now, day and age. When is the last time you personally have heard from your partner, whether it be male or female? When's the last time you've heard them say, I will love you and nothing can stand in our way, nothing on earth, nothing in heaven, nothing in hell. I will love you till death and beyond. When is the last time you've ever heard that? Because I personally have never heard that. If I'm being honest, I've never heard that. I am a very sentimental, sensitive person. I've not been that intense about it, but I've not quoted that, but I've, said things similar to that. But when was the last time that, translation, because again, the way they spoke was a little bit different than how we speak now. But that's initially what he's saying. He's saying that nothing on earth, heaven, or hell can rip us apart. I will always love you now and forever. That is unarguably beautiful, fantastic, and remarkable. Because he truly was in love with his cousin, with Virginia, which that it takes me a second to wrap my mind around how back in the day, back in this time, marrying your first cousin was so normal. I do believe, though, if I do remember correctly, that his parents, at the very least his father, did not approve of Virginia because she was his cousin. So that comforts me a little bit. Comforts me that someone back in the day is like, still not right. It's okay. It's normalized, but it's still not right. So that does bring me some comfort. But at the same time, I love me some Edgar Allan Poe, and I absolutely, whatever makes him happy makes me happy, right? So the fact that Virginia brings him so much happiness and so much love, I'll overlook the whole cousin thing because of that, basically. Let's see. That's about it. It's a decent size. It's fairly short though. Pretty simple. It's a love poem, obviously. I think it's just stunning. I think it's a stunning piece. Not only for Edgar Allan Poe, but in general. I think it's definitely worthy and notable. And I want to thank you for watching this video. And I urge you to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.